Welcome, everyone. This is Emily Scherer with episode 2 of Acorns, a Shady Oak School PTA podcast. On today's episode, we are meeting with 2 advocates for self-care, and we will discuss why it is so important in our lives and what it can look like. Welcome, ladies. Today we have Brandy Mitchell, who is a registered nurse and licensed massage therapist, as well as Deidre Doggett, a physical therapist and yoga instructor. We are here at Haven Wellness Collective. It's a new collaboration between old friends, bringing services to the community, including adult and pediatric massage therapy, infant massage classes, and women's wellness coaching, as well as small group yoga and private therapeutic movement sessions, nestled right in the middle of historic downtown Sugar Land. Ladies, thank you so much for giving me your time. We're going to be discussing self-care, and what does that even mean?
Thank you.
Good question. Thank you. Thank you for asking.
Deidre, what is self-care? What is self-care to you, and when you recommend self-care to somebody?
Putting this into perspective, I think self-care is kind of being in touch and having an awareness of yourself enough to know that what you're bringing to your family and friends is your best. So it's kind of refilling your cup so that you can be the best for your people and the ones that you love. And what does that look like? And that may vary from person to person. So what I do for self-care may be different than what you do for self-care.
So it's not necessarily writing a prescription for kale.
No. Okay. Kale is good, though.
Brandy, what does self-care mean to you?
Yeah, it means knowing what I need. I'll speak about myself. Self-care to me means knowing what I need and then actually doing that thing. And it varies, like from person to person, but it also varies for me. And, the things that I did for self-care before I had kids are radically different than the things that I'm able to do now with 2 young children. And so understanding that and respecting that and recognizing that there's this whole spectrum of self-care. I see it as like we can have little mini fill-ups and then we can have like really big fill-ups. Fill-ups being like filling our cup. And I can grab like little bits when I can. And then, and can I let that be enough to carry me through until the kids are in bed? And I can get a bigger fill up. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What is the importance of self-care and how we as parents can show that to our children?
Yeah.
I look at it as if I have time to refill my cup, as you put it, I am now no longer going to hopefully fly off the handle at 6:30 at night when my children are going crazy and no toy is cool anymore. And apparently they didn't eat enough at dinner and now they're starving for ice cream.
Yeah.
If I have taken that opportunity to fill my cup, in theory, I am not going to lose my mind.
Right.
And so that's then showing my children. And is self-care important at a child level? Is that something they naturally do, or is it something that we have to show them?
Wow.
Is that something that is, as a parent, we need to be thinking about?
Absolutely.
I think that plays into the boundaries perfectly. To show our kids, well, first of all, how do you teach self-care? Let's get back to that. So I just remember when I was little, my mom would just say at the end of the day, like, just go take a bath and just kind of reset. And that, to me, the message, even as a child, was that I need, like, things are not going well. One thing you can do is go take a bath and just relax. And I was young when she would say that. It's still just kind of like her pattern. That was her mother's pattern. That was their mechanism of getting to that point. Like, all right, the day is done. Let's take a bath and we'll sleep better. That was their message. So how does that relate to my family? I have 2 boys and they're like, go take a shower. It's not like all bubbles and whatever. princess play in the bathroom, or, it's something different. But just kind of setting that boundary, like we've reached our limit, and what does that limit look like? Or if dinner time is crazy, we finish eating at 7. If you haven't had what you need at 7, then, I'm sorry. But just to let them know that this is that boundary, and so that they're not kind of reaching for and grasping for what is the limit. Maybe I'll test her today, and today, maybe she'll let me have ice cream, and the next day is no. So to have that consistency, maybe, because otherwise we just get lost, and I lose that reference myself. So if we can establish that as a collective for our family, that would help.
Yeah, well, I think, I love that about what you learned from your mom, and that has stuck with you, because really we know this, right, that we're modeling for our kids all the time, right? And so what do we want to model? Like, they're watching us all the time, no matter what. So I can model like chaos and like losing my patience, and I certainly do. And I will say that I certainly have more than I ever have in this past month since Harvey. And, name any other, traumatic thing that we've been witnessing in our world lately. It just seems like it's relentless, right? So, it always comes back to me to what am I showing my girls? Like, they are learning. They're a sponge. They're just taking this in. So when I take time for myself, when I talk about it, I do a lot of like talking about it. Like, mommy needs a break right now. I'm sure we all do that in some way. But when we bring our attention to it and realize, okay, this is an opportunity to model to my girls that it's important to take care of yourself. It's essential. And you don't wait until you're like exploding and bubbling over to then take care of yourself. Or you don't wait until you're crippled and in pain to go get a massage. We, of course, as a massage therapist,
some people
do, most people do. But as a massage therapist, my vision is that we would take care of ourselves in a proactive way, in a preventative way, before we get to that place of pain and dysfunction in the body. But that was just my plug for massage. But
which is offered at Haven Wellness Collective.
Yes, wonderful team of therapists here. But yeah, Deidre brought up boundaries, and we were talking about this earlier, and it just, boundaries to me, may not be what we think about when we think about self-care, but it's definitely been what I've been navigating lately with the media. Like we were talking about, like, how do we stay tuned into what's going on? Because I will say that one of my core values is to feel connected. I want to feel connected to the community. I want to feel connected to my family. I want to feel connected to the current events, like what's going on, but we all know we can reach a boiling over point, like we can take in too much of the news.
Absolutely. I know everybody was in that downward spiral during Harvey.
Yep.
You turn on the news for 10 minutes and you can get sucked in to that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we as Americans, as human beings, we need to be connected and know what's going on.
Yeah. And there's so much going on, right? It's like every morning, what new thing are we going to wake up to? What alert on our phone? And how do we not be in this perpetual state of like alert? Like
heightened heightened awareness and alertness, and
totally. We know that's detrimental for our nervous system. We know it can get us into this spiral with our health. Can contribute to adrenal fatigue, digestive dysfunction, any number of things. Just not feeling good, right? Mm-hmm. I want to feel good. I want to feel connected to my joy, and I want to feel tuned in to the reality of life right now. And it's hard and it's messy. So I don't know. That's why I brought up the boundaries, because just this morning, I'm like, okay, I very intentionally turned on the TV in the morning. I'm like, I want to tune in. I'm here with my girls. I don't want them to hear too much of what's going on, but I do need to tune in. I need to do that for myself right now. And so, thinking about some guidelines around it. How do I feel when I'm doing this? First of all, being intentional, right? Like, I'm intentional. This is TV. Mm-hmm. I'm intentionally turning it on right now to get some news. It's not going to stay on long. I'm going to turn it off. And I will say that this morning, too, I just stayed really tuned into how I felt as I was watching it. And I felt the emotion coming up as I was listening to stories, watching people crying, telling about the shooting. And I placed my hand on my chest and I let myself feel the feelings. And I let the tears come up a little bit. I'm sharing this because I noticed it was one of the first times when I actually let myself do it in the moment instead of like later when I felt really angry at my kids and I'm like, why am I yelling? Like, I let myself feel the feelings in the moment is the point. And then I literally was like, okay, I think I got everything I need. Like, what more? If I keep listening to this, I'm going to reach that boiling over point and we're not going to have a smooth morning. We're going to be late to school. So we turned off the TV. Anyway, that was a big win for me personally because of letting myself feel the feelings in the moment and say enough and turn it off, put it away, focus on my girls, you know? Yay for little wins, you know, and you got to celebrate these little things.
You do,
because
absolutely.
We're learning about this. It's not like we're experts. We're all navigating this new territory of like, how do we stay tuned in and also take care of ourselves?
Absolutely. When these scary things happen and we get into these spirals, you know, I love the intention of, okay, I'm only going to stay focused on this for 10 minutes. Let me get the key information. Let me navigate it. My husband looked at me last night and he said, how do we explain these things to our kids? And my response was, well, if they don't know about it, I don't want to bring it into their world. If they ask about it, that's one thing, and you can sit down and choose as a parent however you want to do that. But I told them, if they don't know, then we're just going to go outside and we're going to play with chalk. We're going to play with bubbles. And in doing that, I realized, you know, especially during Harvey, you know, we made the Elmer's slime, I think, every day, including cutting it out of Sophie's hair and everything. But that was my way of dealing with all of the intensity. And I guess my question to you is, as a new person to self-care or a new person to the label of self-care, did I get it right? Is me removing myself from the stressful situation of Harvey, of the Weather Channel on repeat, and choosing to cut slime out of my daughter's hair because she wanted pink hair. Did I get it right?
Did you? How did you feel?
What did it end up looking like, or how was that reflected?
The hair, or my spirit.
Let's go with spirit.
Yeah, I mean, I think taking the chance to laugh and cringe at my daughter and explain why we can't have pink hair this way was a much more enjoyable way to spend my afternoon rather than watching Jim Cantori.
So that just seems like normalcy to me. Like, that's just normal 3-year-old day-to-day life. Getting slime out of hair.
And praying that it will look okay in the end. And slathering everything in coconut oil. Deidre, what can we do movement-wise to take care of our bodies in a self-care way? I mean, is it always yoga? For the people who can't be a yogi,
I know
and
some
keep
people
quiet.
are very turned off, or just not interested in yoga. But yoga is it's a tool. You know, some people will pray, some people will run. There's different ways of doing that. But yoga is just a good way to incorporate movement, just general taking care of the physical body. But yoga also asks you to just be present in the moment that you're in. And that takes practice because we're so used to thinking about what happened yesterday in the car 5 minutes ago, or we're thinking about the grocery store and whatever you forgot to put on your list. And we just don't practice being in the moment and seeing what you feel like and how, what's led you to this point. Sometimes you have to, I feel like it's almost like you have to step out and look at it from a different perspective because you're just so immersed into what you're feeling, or maybe you're not even paying attention to what the feelings are. You just know that something's not right. So sometimes you have to step back, take that third person perspective and see what your interactions look like between you and your kids, and see what they look like between you and your spouse, or you and your parent, or you and your friends, and just kind of see with fresh eyes what that looks like, and maybe what you can do on the back end to enhance that and taking care of yourselves physically, because tension does live in the body. I mean, it's reflected in a lot of our ailments, like Brandy was saying earlier, tummy troubles or joint pain, muscle pain. It just, stress lives in the body. We just don't pay attention to it. And yoga is just the physical aspect of yoga is moving that out of the body. But then the mental part is just bringing that together to be aware of how your body feels and how your mind feels and what's reeling on in there.
Almost making a yoga believer out of me.
I hope so.
If only y'all would allow more talking, I would be in. Okay, so we've talked about taking baths, doing yoga, being intentional and in the moment, and living in that. What for somebody walking in off the street and you say, you need to do more self-care. What can that look like? We've talked about yoga and movement. It can be taking a walk. What all could it be?
Putting our phones down. I think stepping away from technology, going outside. There's so many things that we've just lost touch with that just seem to be normal at some point in history, and then it's lost to us now. To just go, be barefoot in the grass, or just get some sunlight and go for just a slow, meditative, intentional walk.
Not a 5K.
Not a 5K, not at all. It can be 2 minutes. It's just, making that quality time instead of quantity.
Yeah, because we know quantity is hard to come by.
Yeah,
right?
I don't have a lot of quantity.
Yeah.
I need to make this count.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of, being intentional, and, another buzzword is mindfulness, how can we just pay attention to what we're doing? And I think in that way we can integrate self-care throughout our entire day. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to look like anyone else's, sometimes we can't even sit down with a hot cup of coffee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's cold before we realize it.
When you find it. If you remember where you put it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, can self-care be just, I'm going to tune into my breath for 3 breaths right now? And can I do that even with my kids? I mean, of course, the answer is yes, Can you do that when you feel tensions rising up, in the car on the way to school? I'm just going to take 3 deep breaths. You want to take it with? You want to take a breath with me? And let them have that choice, whatever, Mom, I don't know. My 5-year-old is sometimes she'll do it, and, but
we roll down the windows.
Oh,
when things are just getting crazy, no, let's stop, let's roll down the windows and let all that out.
Right.
We ready? Okay, put it back up.
Yeah,
that's our little signal to reset.
That's so
in
cool.
the car, at least.
Yeah, but that's a really easy way to do it.
It's easy, and it's just they know what it means, even though they're they're young, but they know what that means. Things are not going right. Let's reel this in, reset,
air the negativity out,
air it out, get it out.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we collectively say, "Are we ready now? Okay, let's go."
And I guess it sounds like someone said to you, Emily, you need to do more self-care. Because you've said that a couple times.
Someone said that to you?
I'm also trying to figure out how I can work this into, can I go get a massage? Because that's self-care.
Right.
Can I go get a pedicure? Or, what are those? Because we obviously have big moments where you can have self-care, where it's, hey, the kids are both being taken care of at so-and-so's house. And so I have a whole hour or 2 hours to devote to me that maybe isn't getting dinner ready, cleaning the kitchen, and what are those big moments? And then those when you're exhausted and worn out in the kitchen at your wit's end, and knowing, okay, just taking a moment and enjoying peace in that moment. Because it can sound like it looks like a lot of different things, and the reason we do it is to avoid the body ailments, the hormone, and all of that.
Imbalances, yeah.
What happens, because I said to Justin this morning, I said, I really just want to sleep in one day. I am exhausted. And he said, well, that's what summer was for. I said, yeah, but then we had Harvey, and I just haven't purged all of that out of my body. I mean, I have been, as you said, in that heightened state of alert. We have all been, during Harvey, it was a couple of weeks, and then it was throwing ourselves back into normalcy. So is it easier to do it in those small moments? Is it, I need to check out for a day? Does that vary person to person? Why is it so important to do that?
Well, I have a suggestion for just practical, what you were talking about. Like, how do I know what works for me? And so the suggestion is to actually jot down, like, you maybe take a sheet of paper and draw a line right down the center. And on the left side, write the things that are like they could be like your little mini fill-ups. And this came from a wonderful woman that I've learned from. Her name is Carrie Conti. And she talked about this sort of mini fill-up and big fill-up. And understanding, that's where I first started to open my eyes to that. Like, it can look there's a whole spectrum of how this can look. So, but I think we've established that what's my self-care is not yours. It may not be yours. We have, differences in budget constraints and access, like actual access to these tools. So make your own list, like what are my little mini things that I can do when I have 5 minutes? When I need 5 minutes, I need to set a boundary and take 5 minutes because it's the witching hour and I need to step outside and look at the tree blowing in the wind, that could be self-care. And then make on the other side of that page, write down the big things and just have that list and have it posted up so that when you do have that hour, because I don't know, I feel like I hear from a lot of women that, maybe don't have a whole lot of time to themselves. I don't even know what to do with this hour. Like when you get the hour, it's like you just sit there and stare at the wall, right?
Absolutely. I've been in that hour before.
Right, totally. And then, or like me, I have a million things I think I can accomplish in an hour. And I'm like, my mind goes wild with all the things I could do, and that's not realistic.
And then you do none of them.
Which I suppose in a way could be self-care as well.
I think
just
so.
Sitting in
Was
silence
that stuff
and
really
shock and awe?
Oh, for sure. Shock and awe. In a stupor. But, if you have that list, then just go look at it, grab it from the fridge or from your purse or wherever and, that's something that I could do. That way it's personal, that way it's realistic, and it's practical. That's what we're talking about here. This is not about, you must have a spa day once a month. That'd be great, but that's not realistic, or it's not even everybody's thing. So find what works for you.
Just what brings you joy. And keep doing that. Or find time to make that happen. It's little things like finding a really good apple. That will make my day. This apple just made my day. I mean, it's not kale, but it was an apple. But that was something silly that just, that's,
And just enjoying that.
Enjoying it, yeah.
Paying attention.
Paying attention, yes.
I see in front of both of you lists of thoughts and books. Is there other things that, as a self-care novice, I haven't thought of that you would like to bring to my attention?
Yeah, we have a million things that we do. Oh, man. Well, so I talked about boundaries, and that's, again, I think that's it's huge for knowing how to navigate, where you are, what you need. I'm a little lost. You go, Deidre. You have this great list in front of you. You had some really
I feel
thoughts.
like we innately will know what we need if we just allow ourselves the time to just listen.
Yep.
If you need to sleep in that one day, I think your body's telling you that's what you need. We just don't listen to that because we think that we need to be busy all the time, and that the more we do, the more productive we are, the better we are. But I feel like scaling back, at least that's where I am in my life right now, scaling back and just being more intentional about my time and being more intentional with my relationship with my kids and husband and friends and letting that be my priority, because we do glorify busy a lot.
I'm really glad you said that, because one of the things I thought of when you said about sleeping in is that, when we're looking at where to begin with self-care, we know that when we try to attack too many things, do too many things at once, it's not sustainable, right?
Everyone's talking about
right.
Like, we're talking to you. We're talking to you. This is an intervention, actually.
Oh, Lord.
I'm going to start a new exercise program and diet program, and I'm going to replenish my adrenals by sleeping more. I mean, like, it's too much, We have to pick one thing to focus on. And I think if you're looking at, like, all these different areas to focus, like, where do I begin? Generally, it's best to begin with rest. Yeah, that's good. That's the first time I said it like that. It's best to begin with rest. Like if we are sleep deprived, we know that we have a harder time with our willpower. So it's harder to stick to dietary changes, which can definitely test our willpower. Right?
Absolutely. I'm thinking about that 3:00 pickup when my kids say snow cone and I'm exhausted and say, sounds great. Yes.
I'll have 3.
Yes. Sugar's going to give me energy. It's going to taste awesome.
Yeah.
Is it Whole30? I mean, it says it's berry, so...
Yeah, so it usually comes back to that we are tired, It's why we have T-shirts, we have this mom uniform, it seems. It's like so trendy, like...
Tired as a mother.
Right, totally. Coffee, top notch, wine, like, okay, it's such the thing. And what we're saying is, I'm so tired.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so tired. So can we let ourselves go to sleep a little earlier? And I will say, hello, I've been working on rest myself. But last night, I got really into binge watching a show, and I stayed up till midnight watching it. And it was
you
a choice.
Crazy cat.
I'm crazy. I'm like, I know I don't get to sleep in the morning. That's not a part of my reality now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm choosing this. I am choosing this, and I don't do it every night. But
and you enjoyed the show.
I totally enjoyed the show. And I didn't, I could have watched even one more, but I didn't do it. I stopped at midnight. That was
called balance.
Yes. But, rest, it really is about starting there. So how can we, does it mean we get to sleep in? Not in my life. I do not get to sleep in. No. I just physically don't sleep in. I always wake up at the same time. So, but I can incorporate like a restorative yoga posture at 3 p.m. in the day, or I can focus on my breath. I lay down on my massage table in between clients sometimes and just take a break, just a little mini fill up, a couple breaths.
Like a little mini vacation in the middle of your day.
Yeah.
Well, and I love the fact that it's giving yourself permission. I mean, I will be the first to say, my name is Emily and I sign up for too many things. I say yes too many times. And to say it's okay to hop off the hamster wheel and go curl up in that little toilet paper tube and take a breather.
Yeah.
Because
what happens if you don't?
Well, a lot of things will happen if I don't get it all done.
No.
But
if you don't, if you say yes to everything, what happens if you don't take the time for yourself? What do you notice?
Well, we eat out a lot in those scenarios, and I may be a little bit shorter with my family and loved ones.
Heck yeah.
But to give yourself permission to say, okay, I can say no to this, or say, you know what, I'd love to come, but I'll be half an hour late, just because I would like to actually take time getting ready and being in the moment of blow drying my hair, because I only get to do it once a week because I'm running out the door. Yeah. And I think hearing that we can give ourselves permission, that's a pretty big thing. Yeah. And while it may be old hat to some people, it's a pretty novel idea to me. So
I think that's really important. And I will say often to my clients, I give you permission to XYZ, to take care of yourself in this way. It's based on our conversation, during our session. And we just often need to hear, giving each other permission, giving ourselves permission to take care of ourselves, because it's not just about us. Coming back to modeling for our children, like we want our kids to be able to care for themselves in a sustainable way, because our world is going to need that.
I don't see the pace of the world slowing down.
No, doesn't seem that way.
We just don't want to get carried up in it. To know when to slow down, know how to listen to yourselves, know. And permission's big, because I say that before most of my yoga classes. You have permission to say no to doing certain poses. You have permission to just sit down and rest, and you have permission to not be caught up in what's going on around you. That you have permission.
And as a yoga instructor, you won't kick them out for choosing to make any
only
decisions?
if they talk the whole time.
Just saying, some people may have been kicked out of yoga classes for some stuff more than just talking a lot. So yeah. Well, as we are wrapping up thoughts, I just want to thank both of you so much for giving of your time and of your wisdom in what self-care looks like and why we need it. And I'm going to give you all both one more opportunity. If there's anything else or a resource or a thought or a recipe or what a perfect morning looks like for you in a perfect world where we wake up and it's all great news and we're only covering the Nobel Peace Prize winners and all of that. I will give y'all one more opportunity, but again, I just want to thank you both for coming out and meeting me here today. Brandy, any final thoughts?
Of course. I'm trying to choose which one to share, but I think the main thing is just, I hope anyone listening will just, when you get done listening, write down or just jot down in your phone or hit record on your voice memo on your phone or whatever you need to do to reflect and identify, what do I need? What helps me feel the way I want to feel? And see what happens. See what comes up, because it may be different. It may surprise you. It may be a way more accessible than you think it is, because often, we think it's like, I can't. I don't have all day to go to the spa. I don't have any time, it feels like. But just check in with yourselves. The more we can check in, tune in, and listen, the more we'll create what we want.
I think the hardest part is finding what self-care is for each individual person. And then once you find it, you're going to be reinforced by that, because it's going to be reflected in how you feel, how you move and behave and breathe, and how you interact with those around you. So I think the hardest part is just finding what that is and just being a little introspective and listening.
Taking baby steps.
Taking your baby steps. That's right.
Yeah. I love that. And go out and buy a really great apple.
Follow that with some kale.
Maybe not a kale, but at least an apple. I can do an apple. All right. Well, thank you again, ladies, so much for coming out. We invite everybody to check out Haven Wellness Collective, and we'll get those resources out to y'all as well. Again, thank you, listeners, for tuning in, and thank you, Brandy and Deidre, for giving of your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode, and we hope you tune in for the next Acorns, a Shady Oak School PTA podcast.